Hello and welcome to this video and to September's book review. The month, so it didn't end very well, which is probably why my view of the month is a bit tainted. I would say it was a pretty average to poor reading month, but I did get a 5-star read, which we'll talk about, and I have met my reading goal for the year. So I've read 52 books this year, which is good going, if I do say so myself. So yeah, let's jump in, talk about I think it's 5 books I read this month. Again, I will explain why. There's a very clear reason for that. Yeah, so the first book that I read was a Fate inked in blood. I always want to say something inked in fate. I always get them the wrong way around, but I'm pretty sure it's a Fate inked in blood, and that's by Danielle Jensen. This was a book club read. I literally read it the week before the book club, so it was a bit tight on whether I was going to get it finished in time. Finished it like the day before, and that took some dedication. Like, right, I had to just sit down and read it for that. And it was my first romantasy book. So in this we are following, I can't remember her name, Freya. We are following Freya, who is got some sort of power. It's sort of surrounded by Norse mythology, this book. So she is blessed by one of the gods, and there's a prophecy around her, so everybody wants her because whoever is in charge of her or something like that is going to become the king of this area. So she is captured by I can't remember his name either, one of the leaders of the tribes, I suppose, because he feels that it's his prophecy that he's gonna unite this area and become the king of it. And he has a son, and it's the son where the romance element comes in, and he's called Bjorn, which struggled a little bit with that because I just thought ABBA and it's Norse. They're from the same kind of area, so yeah. Thought with this book that you actually had to have quite a bit of knowledge around the Norse mythology and Norse gods and things like that. I know I could have googled it and that would have helped, but I was on such a tight time frame to read this that I just had to get on with it, and I didn't really have the time to delve deeper into it. But I feel like the author just sort of assumed you knew a lot of it, which I obviously didn't. So I think it either needed more explanation for that, or some sort of bit at the beginning to say you need this kind of experience or this knowledge, because there were parts that were lost on me. But saying that, it was also the most obvious book I think I've ever read. I knew instantly what was going to happen, and then they try and do a twist, so they take it in a direction. I'll be like, well, yeah, that's obvious, then that's going to be that one. So I haven't been put off romantasy as a genre, but this one wasn't for me. There was quite a lot of fighting in it, and I got fed up at those sections because they sort of felt like they dragged on. It felt like there was a lot of fight, then like nothing, and then all of a sudden we're fighting again, and there wasn't much linking each thing, so I didn't get a huge amount of character development or anything like that. The back and forth between Freya and Bjorn I actually quite liked. Sort of the development of their relationship was quite fun, but also it went a bit quick, and as I said, it was obvious. So I said I'm not going to read the sequel, and that is likely. It's one of those ones that if it falls into my lap, I will read, but I'm not going to go out of my way to find it or to do it. It was just sort of fine. I gave it a 3-star. There were parts that I enjoyed, there were parts that I didn't, so on the whole it was just sort of fine. So yeah, that was my first introduction to romantasy. Not ideal. So then I went on to the oldest book on my TBR, and that was Yours Cheerfully by AJ Pearce. This is the second book in the, I think they're called the Emmy Lane Chronicles or the Dear Mrs. Bird Chronicles. Basically, Dear Mrs. Bird is the first book. This is the sequel, and we're back with Emmy, who is still at the magazine, where she is doing the agony aunt column, although that's not quite as prominent in this one, because she's more writing articles now to encourage women to get into like the factories and stuff to help the war effort, and we're going through all of that. This is actually my 5-star read, because I did really enjoy it and I had a really good reading experience. I found the YouTube channel Cozy Vintage, which is supposed to be like there's a gramophone in like the next room playing, so it's a bit muffled, so although there are words you can't really hear them. There's a crackling fire, the picture doesn't really move, yeah, and it just fit the time period of this really well, and that just really helped my reading experience of it. I really like the sort of nostalgic feel to this book. As I say, it's based around World War II, and there is a real keep calm and carry on kind of feeling to this, and it does touch on some actual really sad topics, but in a sort of stiff upper lip British wartime way, which I really appreciated and enjoyed throughout this, that it felt like we were basically reading someone's diary rather than a novel at points, because it never felt morose or anything like that, whereas it really could have fallen into that. And it was also really interesting to see sort of the women's perspective of the war and what the women were going through and what the women were doing, because again, often it's about the soldiers, the fighting, all of that kind of stuff, which is a massive part of war, but there were the people at home and how they went about their day-to-day lives and how women coped with both children and jobs and the worry that their partner, husband, whatever wouldn't come back and all of that kind of stuff. So it's been a long time since I read Dear Mrs. Bird, and I really enjoyed that one too, but I wasn't expecting to enjoy this quite as much as I did. It's one of those 5 stars that it sort of doesn't feel like it should be a 5-star. I didn't get that like, yeah, that's like my favourite book of all time, I'm gonna rave about this, but also there was nothing in it that I could criticise. So it's a sort of, not begrudging, but one of those 5 stars that I might not actually think about. Like Lessons in Chemistry, which I read last year as a 5-star read, that I think about still a lot, whereas I don't think this one will, but also there was nothing in it that I could fault, so it sort of had to have a 5-star. Does that make sense? Emmy is a character I really like. She's really loyal, she's tenacious, she wants to get to the bottom of things, she's a very good friend, and we got to see a bit more of her life story as well in this as well. So yeah, enjoyed. I do have the 3rd book on my shelf somewhere. Up here, you can't see it, it's off camera. I'm going to say I'm going to pick it up sooner rather than later, but let's be honest, I probably won't. But when I get to it, I'm hoping it's as good as this and the first one. So yeah, Yours Cheerfully by AJ Pearce. An unexpected 5-star that I wasn't expecting, obviously, because I just said it was unexpected. So I also was listening to the audiobook of Everybody in This Room Will Someday Be Dead, and that's by Emily Austen. I also gave this book 3 stars. It's not bad, again, it's not a bad book. I think I probably listened to it at the wrong time. I think I'm getting a little bit fed up of books about death and that kind of thing at the moment. I didn't like the narrator of the audiobook at all, so that didn't help. And I'm feeling I'm slightly burnt out of audio at the moment. I've had to take a bit of a break from it, just while I recoup a bit from it. I don't know what it is, but I'm not enjoying it quite so much as I was at the beginning of the year. So this book, we are following our main character, who again I have no idea what their name is because all names have gone out of my brain. She is in a hard place. There's obviously some mental health issues going on there. She's often at the hospital with panic attacks and things like that, and she got fired from her bookstore job. She saw a poster for some like free counselling because they keep referring her, but she's never getting it at a church, so she goes there. But instead of getting into the counselling thing, she gets mistaken for someone coming for a job interview, so it ends up being basically like their administrator, like their church manager kind of thing. But she's an atheist lesbian, so she feels she has to hide her identity and that kind of stuff. Her biggest thing is, you know, everybody's going to die and all of that kind of stuff. There is a bit of a mystery in this around the previous administrator and her death, although it doesn't play much of a role. I feel it could have been a bigger aspect and that might have been a bit more enjoyable. But yeah, I mean, I know the clue's in the name of the book, but it was just a bit too much about death for me. I wasn't really feeling it. As I said, it's probably more of a me thing than the book, just picking it up at the wrong time, because I wanted a shorter audiobook and this was sort of the only one that was available that kind of appealed. It wasn't my favourite, although from looking at the reviews and stuff, it apparently does have quite good representation of that sort of anxiety and that kind of thing, if you're looking for those kind of books. So I won't dwell on it too much. 3 stars from me, and yeah, it was okay. Again, if you've been following along for a long time, you know I'm working my way through the Bridgerton series, so the next book I read was When He Was Wicked by Julia Quinn, and this is Francesca's story. And I have to say, this is my least favourite Bridgerton. This is what I mean by the reading month was a bit meh. It was still easy enough to get through, it was still enjoyable at parts, but I gave this one 3 stars as well. Most have been 3.5, other than Eloise's story, which was a 4. So I did have higher expectations for this coming off Eloise's book. But Francesca as a character, she's not my favourite Bridgerton. Julia Quinn just doesn't seem to be able to write a decent male main character. I felt this one had too much smut and not enough relationship in it. I get that Francesca and what was his name? Michael were friends previously. He's the cousin of her first husband who passed away, so she had to go through a period of bereavement and then she comes back into society looking for a husband. And Michael has loved her from the moment he laid eyes on her. So because you've already got that backstory that you're supposed to just sort of accept and know about, you don't really get much development of their relationship. They just sort of fall into bed and then that's it really for the rest of the book. It's also largely based in Scotland, so we don't really get any of the other Bridgerton characters in it, which I missed. If we're going to add tropes, it's very much he fell first, which I'm not opposed to, but again, I like a bit of development to my relationships. There are trigger warnings in this. This is probably the only Bridgerton that has got some more impactful trigger warnings. Obviously death of a spouse, as I mentioned, but also there's quite a bit of talk of infertility in this one, which is nice to have that in a Bridgerton book, something a little bit more serious, which you don't always get in them, but I'm not sure quite how well they were, you know, discussed. I don't know what it is about Julia Quinn and male main characters. She just doesn't seem to be able to write them. So yeah, definitely not my favourite Bridgerton. I have 3 left, as you can you see? Yeah. So we're moving on to is it Gregory's story next? Might be Hyacinth's, one of those, next month. And hopefully that's better than this one. So yeah. And then we come to the book that has really put a dampener on my reading and my reading month. Again, it's a book club book because I knew this one was going to take me quite a bit of time, so I started it way earlier, plus my library loan came in for it, and that was Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. So Sally Rooney, for those who may not know, is the author of Normal People and Conversations with Friends and that kind of stuff, and I have never been interested in reading one of her books before. I had heard that the writing style is a bit odd and the way that she writes, and I just didn't think it would be for me. Also, it's very much those no plot kind of books, which I'm fine with. The character development for me is fine, but I need a little bit of story, and I didn't get on very well with Intermezzo at all. So in this we're following brothers Peter and Ivan. Their dad has passed away. More death for me, as I said, I'm getting a bit fed up of it. So their dad has passed away and they're going through the grief process, but there's quite a big age gap and they've never got on that well. So yeah, and I was right, Sally Rooney's writing style just isn't for me. There's far too many like commas and full stops and run-on sentences, and there's no speech marks. So it's just like pages and pages of text with like no break to it. I didn't feel like anything really happened in this book. I did feel myself sort of skimming it a lot of the time. Like felt like I was going through like a few pages and then going, I don't actually know if I've taken any of that in, because I was too busy thinking about, I don't know, Eloise's Christmas presents or something like that. It's like something completely unrelated to what I was reading. There was no intrigue to me. I didn't like either Ivan or Peter. I thought both of them were pretty poor characters. I don't feel like there was a huge amount of character development in them, if that is what the whole sort of point of the book was. And just, yeah, it wasn't for me. I gave this one 2 stars. I know there are people in book club that do like this. We haven't actually had our meeting yet as I'm recording this. I know it's going to be a very divisive book, but I am definitely on the negative end of the spectrum for this. And actually the books at the moment for book club have not been great. I haven't really enjoyed one of them for how many months? About 5 months now, maybe 5 books, and October's is not looking great for me. It's horror and I don't really do horror. I've never actually read a horror book, so I can't really say that, but in terms of films and stuff, it's not my genre, so I'm not really looking forward to that one either. So yeah, book club's been a bit of a flop recently. It's definitely opening doors to books that I wouldn't have read before, but they're not ones that I've particularly enjoyed recently. We've had a couple of good ones, but recently, no. I feel like for Intermezzo itself, the only saving grace was probably Ivan and Margaret's relationship. There were patches of that I actually quite enjoyed. Would have preferred a bit more of it, although I did not want this book to be any longer. And obviously there's a dog. I always like a dog in a book, so Alexi was cool. But yeah, 2 stars, not for me. Don't intend on picking any more Sally Rooney up in the future. So yeah, that is my September reading. As I said, we move into October. I'd sort of earmarked my TBR a long time ago for that, but it does include this horror book that I'm not totally thrilled about. So yeah, do click that subscribe button if you're interested in my thoughts for October's read. If you've got any comments about the ones that I've read this month, please put them in the box below, particularly if you enjoyed Intermezzo. I want to know what it is about that book that you liked. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!